Following the video I posted on Coolibah, burl and epoxy, I've been getting this question: why do you apply a finish on top of your top coat epoxy? Isn't the top coat epoxy just enough? I decided to explain the reason in this video. If you want to learn the reason and understand what it takes to create a glass-like finish, please stay with me till the end of this video. Using an epoxy top coat on a hybrid wooden epoxy piece helps fill all the pores, tiny dents, and even scratches left by tools. It also adds depth to the finish, that rich glassy look that really brings out the character of the wood. As you can see here, right after applying the epoxy top coat, the finish looks beautiful and deep. But if you run your hand across it or look really closely, you will start to notice the imperfections. There are bumps, dents, sometimes even trapped bubbles. Getting a perfect epoxy finish depends on a lot of variables, like the brand and type of epoxy, the temperature of the piece and the room, how clean your workspace is, and honestly, even then, it's still hit or miss. That's why I don't rely on epoxy alone. I mainly use it to fill pores, tool marks, and small surface flaws, and to create that deep glass-like base. But for the final finish, I always follow up with a top coat finish to get things really smooth. Once the epoxy has fully dried, I start sanding it to remove imperfections and create a smooth surface for the top coat finish. The grit I start with really depends on how bad the surface is. The more severe the bumps, dents, or bubbles, the lower the grit I'll need to start with. Sometimes I have to sand off nearly the entire layer of epoxy just to get the surface flat. But even then, the epoxy top coat still does its job by filling pores and tool marks beneath the surface. For this Coolibah burl and epoxy project, I initially started with 180 grit, but the bumps and dents were more stubborn than expected, so I had to go down to 150 grit to level the surface properly. After flattening the surface with coarse grit, I gradually increased the grit and stopped at 220 grit. Once the surface is even and smooth, then it's ready for the top coat finish to go on clean and level. For this Coolibah burl and epoxy project, I used Clean Armor's Wood 757 top coat finish. It cures in just a few minutes under UV light and is ready for final buffing right after. With any top coat finish, it's important to let it cure completely before you start buffing. If you don't, you risk ending up with a hazy or cloudy surface. Most top coat finishes, especially epoxy, can take days or even weeks to fully cure. That's one of the reasons I like using Wood 757. It gives me a hard, buffable surface in just minutes, which really speeds up the process. I've shown the entire finishing process from applying the top coat epoxy to buffing and waxing in the Coolibah burl and epoxy video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you are interested, I highly recommend checking out the full Coolibah burl and epoxy project. I've added the link in the description below. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss future videos. And if you have any questions or ideas for future projects, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you.